In this video, I'm gonna share with you how to start a sports card business with under $500 in under 30 days. And this video is gonna be very straightforward and very to the point, okay? For those of you guys that don't know, sports cards is a huge market. And the great thing about sports cards is you can realistically start with low risk and high upside, right? That's what we all want. We want low risk, high returns. Now, the way we do that is through something called grading. Some of you guys are familiar with how grading a sports card works. Some of you guys are not. Essentially, to keep it simple, the way it works is you could buy a card for, let's say, $100. And you could send it in to get graded. There's a bunch of different grading companies. One's called Beckett, one's called SGC, and the biggest and best one usually is called PSA. PSA is the best grading company. And you could buy a card for, let's say, $100 and get it graded, and usually as a 10, it's gonna be worth about $300. Now, how much is it to get a card graded? It's gonna cost you about $20, give or take. You're gonna probably sell the card on eBay. They're gonna take about a 13% fee. So at the end of the day, if you buy a card for $100 after all fees, hopefully you'll net around $240 to $250. And it takes about 4 to 5 to 6 weeks for this card to get back from grading. It's an amazing business model, and it's pretty incredible once you know what it takes for a card to get graded a 10. When you're grading a card at PSA, that's the company I'm gonna use because that's the biggest and best company. That's the company a lot of my students use for the most part. You want to get that card to grade a 10. How to get a card to grade a 10? Not every card comes out of the case perfect. There's 4 big pieces of criteria: corners, edges, centering, and surface. And I have other videos that really go into depth on what really makes a card a 10 and how to really evaluate these 4 pieces of criteria. Most people think that grading sports cards is impossible to get a 10 and it's just luck and it's just simply impossible. Now, I'm not saying this to brag, but I used grading sports cards to pay my way through college. And I went to Rutgers University, and even though I was in state, it still cost me over $30,000 a year. Believe me, it can be done. Where do you find these cards? So these cards, the best place to go is eBay, and second to that are Facebook groups. I teach eBay for the most part, especially for beginners, because it's straightforward, it's simple, it's to the point. So you want to be buying cards on eBay, sending them to your house, but before you buy this card, you want to be able to know, is it in good condition? The corners, the edges, the centering, the surface, does it check out? Are you buying it at the right price point? On eBay, you can actually look at what a card is worth. So if you scroll down to the bottom left on your computer, you could actually look at recent sales to see what a specific card of, let's say, Bryce Young is worth, because you could have a card of Bryce Young worth $50, a card worth $100, a card worth $500. So you don't want to overpay. Now, the great thing about sports cards and grading cards specifically, it's low risk, it's high return, and a lot of the time you can actually see your profits before the card ever comes back as a 10. So when you're looking on eBay and you're looking at a card to buy, you can actually see what is the card worth not graded and what is it worth graded as a 10. Sometimes you're gonna run into cards that might be $100 not graded, and as a 10, for whatever reason, it only sells for $170. If it's only worth $70 more as a 10, it's not worth buying, right? Because to get the card graded, it costs $20. To sell it on eBay, you're gonna incur a 13% fee. I always tell my students, when you're buying a card, you wanna make sure at the minimum, you can double your money after fees. So factor in a 13% eBay fee, factor in some shipping costs, and factor in it's gonna cost you about $20 to get that card graded. If you're enjoying the content of the video and you want to learn how to make a side income with sports cards, I spent the past 3 months putting together a training to show you exactly how it's done in detail. Sports cards has allowed me to live a life beyond my wildest imagination, and I'm thankful for the hobby every single day. That is the reason I teach sports cards, and I am so passionate about it. At the end of the training, we offer a paid program where you can work closer with me. However, I don't want you joining until you've watched the free training I put together. It will show you exactly what's inside the program and how to make money with sports cards, and from there, you can make an educated decision. So if you'd like to sign up for the free training, either scan the QR code on the screen or text Eric to 631-544-7005 or click the link in the description. Just to repeat it, you can either scan the QR code or text Eric to 631-544-7005 or click the link in the description. Now let's get back to the video. Once you find a card that you deem worth it, buy it, okay? And you're gonna send it off to PSA. Now, a few pointers when you're starting your sports card business. So a lot of people think, oh my God, to make $10,000, I need to buy cards that are worth thousands of dollars. It's actually not true. The money is actually made in the lower end cards. So let me give you an example. The way sports cards works is the higher up in cards you buy, like the higher up in value, you're dealing with a different type of person, okay? So when you're buying a $100 card, it's a lot easier to sell and it's a lot easier to find one to get graded because people just rip open packs and boxes. They put these cards on eBay. They don't care about grading them. They just have fun opening up these packs and boxes, and that's when we come in and we buy them. Now, if you're dealing with cards that are $1,000 to $2,000, number one, you're not really gonna find people that are gonna give you these cards with meat left on the bone. There's probably gonna be something wrong with a card if it's not graded and it's worth $1,000. But $100, you're dealing with a regular everyday person, and that's okay. Now, a $100 card, as a PSA 10, usually you're gonna about triple your money, okay? So you're gonna make 3 times your money from raw, not graded, to a PSA 10. With a $1,000 card, you're not gonna get that card to sell for $3,000, right? You would think if a card's worth $100, not graded, and as a 10 it's worth $300, well, if a card's worth $1,000, not graded, as a 10 it should be worth $3,000. It's not really how it works because when you're selling these higher end cards, there's less of a market and there's less demand, and the people that are buying these cards are usually sharks, and they're people who are looking to make a deal and, you know, for lack of a better term, get one over on you. So they want a good deal, so they're gonna offer you $2,200, $2,300, $2,400, and they're gonna try to flip it themselves for $3,000. The reason I'm telling you this is because it's very realistic to start a sports card business with under $500, and it's very realistic to start buying a few cards for under $500. And I have trainings in my Facebook group. You can message me on Instagram, message me on Facebook. I can give you way more trainings to explain things in depth, like how to properly evaluate the condition, how to properly evaluate what a card is worth. But that is the general premise of how to start a sports card business under $500 for under 30 days, okay? It's straightforward, it's to the point, it's low risk, it's high returns. And what I always tell people is start small and work your way up. So see it work, prove it to yourself. This is what I tell my students too. Like, put in a few $100s, make a few $100s, prove it to yourself that it works, prove it to your wife, prove it to your girlfriend, prove it to your kids, and then put more money into it. And the last thing I'll leave you off with is your downside. The great thing about sports cards, like I said, high risk, low return. Now, if you follow, like for example, my students, if they follow what I say, they're gonna grade 10s about 60 to 70% of the time. That's the average. But let's say a card does not grade a 10. What happens, right? Well, usually if you buy a card for $100 and it grades a 9, so if it's not gonna grade a 10, almost always it's gonna grade a 9, it's gonna sell for about break even. Maybe you'll lose $10 to $20. So that's the game, right? If you're a math person, think about that. You buy a card for $100. Let's say it grades a 9. Well, it's gonna grade a 9 about, let's say, half the time. So you lose $10 to $20. It's gonna grade a 10 the other half of the time. So you're gonna make $120 to $150. That's a good game, right? You're flipping a coin. Every time it lands on heads, you're making over $100. Every time it lands on tails, you're losing $10, right? The casino doesn't offer games like that. But once you understand sports cards and understand what cards to buy, how to properly buy cards at certain times of the year, how to evaluate the condition of cards, all this stuff, all you're doing is you're playing a math game, but the numbers are in your favor. That's all business is. It's having a knowledge advantage, and once you have that knowledge advantage, the math is now in your favor because you have a competitive advantage. Whether it's digital marketing, drop shipping, sports cards, that's all business is. It's having an advantage up here, and then it's just a math game. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully this kind of opened up your eyes a little bit to starting a sports card business. Any questions, feel free to comment. Like I said, message me on Instagram, Facebook. My DMs are always open. But like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.